All right, welcome to another episode of The Catholic Couple Having Fun with Faith, Family, and Friends. I'm your co host and only host, Bobby Fredrickson. My wife is not with me, but instead, I have a special guest joining is Sean Pott. He's the Senior Director of Evangelization and Education for the Knights of Columbus, and he is spearheading this new program that is a great opportunity for men to grow. It's called COR, COR, which is the Latin for heart. So welcome to the show, Sean.
Bobby, thank you so much. Great to be with you, brother.
No, it's my pleasure. And my wife, she had some stuff going on, but she's like, "You guys are like men, don't you guys just want to like nerd out like men and grunt and do things like that?" I said, "I don't know much grunting, but we definitely will talk about brotherhood and this core." And we are so different as men and women, and I think that's
True.
great to have this organization that's been around for so many years, spearheading and leading the charge and trying to help draw people into a deeper relationship, especially post COVID, and these three pillars of core, which we're going to touch on, which are prayer, formation, and fraternity. So, starting, Sean, how did you get involved with the Knights, and how did you help get involved with this whole new missionary discipleship program to help get people to get closer to each other and to God?
Yeah, so I've been with the Knights now for 7 years. Prior to my time with the Knights, I was a focus missionary. I was a focus for 10 years. And it was really during that time where I grew, love, zeal for souls, um, r- understanding what does it mean to be a missionary disciple. How do we make missionary disciples? And when I left focus, I was looking for a place where, how can I bring this with me? Lord, you've given me this 10 years of experience. Where can I apply it? And the only door he opened was for the Knights of Columbus. And so my wife and I and our one son at the time, Joseph, we moved to Connecticut across the country. And being with the Knights, we've watched this whole refocusing on the mission and the vision of Father McGivney. And so in doing so, we really opened back up this, his pastoral heart and the need to provide the opportunity for men to be formed in their faith, to talk about their faith, to create the space for that to happen, and to be evangelized and to evangelize each other. And so when the opportunity came about to open our evangelization and faith formation department, um, my boss said, "Hey, Sean, do you want to bring that focus experience directly into who we are as Knights of Columbus?" I said, "Yeah, let's go."
Yeah.
And it was a very humbling opportunity that they said, "Here, let's start building this." And all glory to God, it's taken off way faster than we thought. But it's been that's in a nutshell how God worked, his
Yeah.
crazy will. Sometimes you're like, I don't know where we're going, but let's do it. And
But it's
here
a
we are.
it's a beautiful adventure if we're willing to surrender and let down what we
Amen.
think we should be doing. A lot of times, he leads us to places we don't expect, but his plans are always greater than ours.
And perfect.
I love your background in focus. I wasn't focus. I know a lot of focus missionaries who worked for our parish, and we've gone to the
Oh, nice.
events. We went to seek my partner from Khalil and Purposely Catholic. We went to Utah this year, so we met
Nice.
so many awesome people. But I love their method and their model, which is Curtis Martin's latest book, "The Making Missionary Disciples." I forgot what it's called,
Mhm.
or "We're Made for More," but it's win, build, send. And I think that's the heart. God put you in this for the right reasons. That there are many men who are going to the parish every week, but they're not one yet. They may be,
Mhm.
you know, going through the motions. They're showing up to mass, which is great. They're trying to be the best that they can, but there's that next gear where God wants to. He wants us to surrender, to lay down our guns and try to stop doing it all on our own and let him, by his grace, guide us into that. So what are some ways that you guys have found to help win men to want to go deeper in this relationship so that
Mhm.
they would even want to show up to a meeting, like, hey, we're having this thing, we're having this core. How do you show up? What are some things that have been working, that you're talking to the different chapters and different people throughout the country? What are some ways that they're getting the word out to win them, so then we can get together on this prayer, formation, and the fraternity, because the fraternity comes a lot
Mhm.
easier, obviously, but it's that, how do we win them to get them to form, to evangelize them and catechize them and grow in that relationship with God.
I think what's honestly worked the most has just been the fraternal part. Guys being authentic, saying, "Hey, brother, here's what we're doing, and here's why." And I'd like you to join. I'd like you to come see and dive into this conversation with us. And something that we've been stressing with Core from the beginning is that we want to elevate that experience of fraternity. I mean, every Knight of Columbus would say, "Yeah, I'm part of a fraternal order. We do fraternity really well." We barbecue really well, we do pancakes really well, we do service programs and taking care of the community and charity really well. And say, absolutely, you do. And there's a lot of fraternity that's in that. But how do we take that deeper? So it's not just hanging out. It's not just we show up together and do a thing. How are we actually sharing life and helping share that vision with guys of the fraternity and CORs to take it to the next level? How are we being very intentional and creating that space to get to know each other authentically? And I think guys they are starving. They're thirsting for that of an authentic encounter with each other that's real, that where we actually can talk about life in a real way and share experiences and share where we're at in our walk with God. And we've heard nights, guys who've been saying, we've been waiting this for 20, 30 years. Thanks be to God, we're finally doing this. Who are men who are so committed to the church and to their parish and serving their parish, but have been missing this component in their experience with the council. So I think that authenticity, and also saying it's not a council meeting. We'll have guys who become Knights of Columbus and like, yeah, come to the meeting. And don't get me wrong, our meetings have a purpose. The structure is brilliant, and Father McGivney knew what he was doing when he established the council structure and the meeting structure. But you don't start off a men's group with a gavel, and you don't start it with Robert's Rules of Order. It's about how are we, again, let's start with prayer, and the meetings do start with prayer, but how are we getting to know each other? And again, the intent of this time is to build Christ-centered brotherhood.
Yeah.
So I think hearing that has been very, a great way to win guys initially. But we know we have a lot of work yet to do.
Yeah, the winning is obviously tough. It's not us who does it. It's just trying to guide people into this space to where eventually they can trust the other people that are around, that eventually we can get past those superficial conversations of, hey, the sports or the weather, or you see what's going on with this thing and that thing, to where we actually share our lives with other people. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're trying to, we all want to grow. We know that, but it's hard, especially as men, to want to be vulnerable, to share, like, hey, you know what, I'm struggling with this thing with my fatherhood, or hey, I'm struggling with this thing with my wife, or hey, this thing at work is tough and I don't know how to deal with this coworker. To get guys to be able to open up with that, it does take some time to build that trust. And I think that structure of having that fraternity authentically, where guys can feel free to be themselves, and then guide them into a deeper relationship. But if you don't have that trust set up in the beginning, where people feel open and feel vulnerable, where they can grow, and then the Holy Spirit's going to do the rest. But do you guys do like kickoff events, and how do you guys roll this out within parishes? I know we do some things that are similar, but we haven't implemented COR per se. I help lead a couple men's groups, and we kind of just did like like a barbecue type thing. And
Yeah.
I do one group where post COVID, like, people were dying to get outside. So I started a workout group. So twice a month we meet at 7 a.m. in the morning. We go get we pray, then we get a 30-minute like HIIT workout out in the park. We do some jogging, do some, set up a whole station. Then we're blessed enough to have our parish has a 24-hour adoration chapel. Then we all go to adoration. And then, if we got time, depending on what kind of stuff we got going on with the kids, and we'll hit breakfast or do some more times like that. So it's not a whole lot of formation. Our other group does a lot more formation, but it's like those guys led into the other group. So they're like in both groups basically. But what kind of kickoff and kind of events do you get to kind of roll this out? What are some things that you guys have been doing to try to let people know about hey, you got to kind of do something to get people's attention? There's so many things that are calling for our attention. So what are some things that you've seen, and some other things that may be working better than others?
Yeah. So we've been, and this is a challenge with COR was, okay, we've got a council structure that's in 16,000 parishes around the world. How do we train these guys to do this? And in many ways, we started backwards. We said, let's just create the space. Hit the low-hanging fruit, guys who have experience leading a men's group, guys who've led a Bible study, guys who are involved with other men's ministries, who'd say, wait a second, I've been waiting for this as a night. Maybe this is what brings me back in, letting them run with it, giving them some very foundational, but basic, simple instruction. And that's something that we've been focusing on a lot, is trying to keep it as simple as possible, so guys can say, hey, you know what, this is something we do here, let's do that. But we have encouraged barbecues. Our fraternal year just started on July 1st, and so councils are just getting started. They have a new leadership on deck, and so they're trying to figure out what they're going to be doing this fall. And so we've said, combine it with a barbecue. Hey, let's get together. Let's have some good food, some good fraternity, and maybe ask Father to do a little fervorino to stir our hearts, and we have a little an intentional conversation, and then all right, next core will be in a couple weeks, and here's where we're going to be, and here's where we're going to start, and we're going to dive into this topic or this conversation. So we've encouraged things like that, but we've also left it really open ended, so guys can really figure out what's the best thing that will get guys from their council, guys from their parish, because it's open up to all men of the parish. And so we didn't want it to be too prescriptive. We found also that nights, some of our guys are very by the book. So, well, this is what they said to do, and we have to do it this way. And so we recognize it and love that in them, but we also wanted to make sure we didn't over prescribe. But I
And
think the guys that
religion.
are doing, yeah, so the guys who are doing it really well are doing exactly what you just said. Let's go for a hike. We're gonna have a speaker that's going to be an initial draw to bring guys together to say, hey, this is what this is going to be, but it's about the brotherhood. Let's talk about that. And here's the schedule. Here's what we're looking and hoping to accomplish for all of us as a means of introduction. So there's that. We've also heard great stories of guys giving talks at the end of mass throughout the weekend and making those invitations, talking with them again. That personal invitation being huge, but to an event like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, what I really liked, because we have a group that, we're doing fraternity well. It's great. Someone says a short prayer, and then somebody's been giving a talk, and then they usually have small group questions, and then we break into small groups. But what I like about COR is that there is a structure to it, and you guys have that all laid out on your website, and we'll share it down below, and we'll have you give that out. But I like the format of having like a rotation of the prayer. So maybe 1 week you're going to do, hey, we're going to pray, not just say someone says a prayer and then we do a talk, and then no, we're going to pray the whole rosary together as a group. And a lot of people maybe have not done that. And it's kind of awkward to be with a bunch of other guys praying together. Maybe you've never done that. So I thought that was key. People giving a personal testimony or their subjective opinion on a subject is great, but there's also a need for that formation, where there's a lot of people who have been left behind in their faith. They got a fifth grade level version of the catechism, and they haven't had learned about what does the catechism actually teach? What's the Bible? It doesn't have to necessarily be a Bible study, but the Into the Breach is a nice video series. I'm sure you guys have other video series where it's actually helping people grow in knowledge. We're called to know, love, and serve God. And if we don't know what he's teaching, then we're kind of just winging it. So it's having a structure of forming people, forming to be like Christ. And then fraternity, like you said, that's important. That's great. That helps bring people together. Iron sharpens iron. And it's good to have brothers together to help each other in those small group, context, to try to bounce ideas off of each other and try to support each other and have an actual brotherhood. I'm reading a book right now where it talks about those friends. Most men only have like one friend right now. It's so sad. If that. And it's a deeper friendship when we are chasing the Lord, when we're doing something that's not about me and not about you or anybody else. It's something outside of that relationship, like the philia, that brotherly love, but this higher, like Aristotle talks about, this levels of friendship. And on that highest level is these groups of friends that are chasing after virtue or chasing after a relationship with God. And these relationships, when it's done right and it's done well, and there's a structure and there's people who are leaders and help and do those things right, that what's possible is exponential. Because so many of those relationships that we have within men are very superficial. Like guys I work with, I come in, it's like, hey, did you see the Bears and what the Bulls did? And the NFL this, and the weather that. And it's like, I can't have any of those relationships at work. But I was able to help cultivate these relationships where, we're in a WhatsApp group. We got 50 guys in a WhatsApp group. Everyone's, hey, I need a prayer for this, or hey, check out this podcast, or hey, check out this thing. Like, we're helping each other. Like, throughout the day, people are asking for prayers. We're praying together. Hey, we're going to this mass. We're going to go to this devotion. We're going to go do this. So it's like creating a group of people who are not perfect, but we're in it together to try to grow, and having this, this program where it's not so rigid, but it helps, cycle. One day just prayer, maybe one day just fraternity, maybe some days it's formation, prayer, and fraternity. Maybe it's one or the other, but having that flexibility to feel out, who are the members, if it's nights, if it's a lot of people outside the church, new people from the church, trying to take that and have that, the skeleton about what it looks like, but to have that flexibility, because let's just face it, we need to be flexible. We can't be too rigid, but it's nice to have the bare bones of, hey, this is what it should look like somewhere in there. We obviously always need prayer. How much prayer, more prayer, formation, a talk, and those kinds of things. Or sometimes it's, hey, we're just going to get together. with the guys. We're gonna have a couple beers and we're gonna have a barbecue, just something totally different, and that's okay too. But those friendships that are ground and hey, we're chasing after the Lord. We want to grow in virtue. We want to be the best husband, the best father, the best version of myself that I can be, not only for my family, but for my community, for my parish, for the knights or whatever. So what are some things that some success stories have you heard from people who have implemented this program in their parish that you're seeing the fruit already?
Mhm.
And if there's any of those stories, I'd love for you to share that with our audience.
Absolutely. So we've seen, in my council, actually my first council, I just changed councils. But when I was doing COR for that first council, it was really awesome to see the guys that it brought in that otherwise had never been involved with anything, and a couple of them were not Catholic. One of them was in the process of our CIA right as COVID hit, and so right after. So it's kind of like, okay, what am I doing? Why am I here? Do I really want to do this? What's going on? He just got totally disconnected from everybody. And we start up with COR, and he's like, and he tells us, little later on, like, guys, this saved me in going through RCIA. This saved me at a time when I just wasn't sure who I was getting connected with. What is the church? What role do I play in that? How does this actually look? And this brotherhood helped me get to my confirmation day and first communion, and I was like, praise God. And it was the fact that he could just have real good conversations. He could be honest. He could ask questions, and um, we wanted to make that time and that fraternal time for him to ask questions. I've heard about a story from Kansas. A guy says that COR, just being able to talk with his brothers, opened up his heart to recognize the love that he actually had for his wife and saved his marriage. And it was in talking with those other guys and saying, "Wow, what what am I focusing on? What does my vocation mean?" And that's a whole thing, helping guys open up their heart to understand their vocation in a deeper way. But across generations, we have grandfathers who are maybe in despair because their children and grandchildren aren't faithful, aren't practicing, and like, well, what do I do? Hey, younger guys, what do I do? But you also have some younger guys who are saying, hey, I'm newly married. I've got a couple kids. I'm trying to figure out fatherhood. Hey, older guys, what do I do? you know, um, and it's hey, do this, but also, hey, my kids left the church, so don't do this. And like being able to share wisdom and
Yeah.
hearing that dynamic, like, all right, guys, let's share wisdom intergenerationally. Let's create friendships intergenerationally. Has been amazing to hear. And so I think guys just saying that this is something they've been looking for, and that, like you said, they're lonely in their faith, and they just need to have those conversations and that sounding board of other men, like you said, iron sharpening iron, in virtue, but even talking about things. Okay, um, we're growing and we're trusting each other. We're building this trust, but we keep saying this word virtue. I have no idea what that is. So okay, let's thank you, brother, for being honest. Let's dive into what is virtue, what is holiness. All these concepts that I have easily taken for granted. Um, but the average male Catholic, like you said, maybe fifth grade catechism level, who really needs to start from the beginning. And what a beautiful opportunity to do that with brothers who care for your soul. There is no ego in this. It's like, yeah, brother, let's dive into that. Again, there's no shame here. We're all going in the same direction. Let's help each other get there. And so that's been really really amazing to hear those stories coming up about guys who, and actually last story, we have to support this. So we're one building in New Haven, Connecticut, and we recognize that we cannot evangelize from New Haven to all these 16,000 councils. And the way of doing that was creating the structure of COR within the leadership structure that we've had in the Knights of Columbus for 143 years. And so we've created these positions of council evangelization and faith formation director, and state evangelization and faith formation director. And we were doing a training for these state guys. And this one guy heard about COR, and he said, I'm not a knight, but I'm coming to this training. And so he became a knight on the train coming up from DC because he wanted to be involved with leading this for the guys in Virginia and the guys in the DC area. And it was his first time really connecting with the vision of Father McGivney and the mission that he had. And it was again a really cool thing to see this connect for not just him but other men that we've been hearing, which has been truly a blessing and
Yeah.
helping them come alive in that.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for sharing those stories. It's a great. People have to realize that there's real people who really are suffering, need that connection. I know I'm a convert, so for me, the first like maybe 5 years of my faith, I was like zealous. I'm like, but I had no one to run with. Like I had my wife who was, she was like, she was still going to mass, but she didn't take her faith that serious. And then she came, like me coming alive, made her come alive. So we were, supporting each other, but that's great. And, she's my best friend and all those other things. But there's something about having a brotherhood and a tribe, but
Absolutely.
we're not so sophisticated. For me, I was like in the desert, like I was free from slavery. I want to chase the Lord, but here I am in the desert, like the Israelites, and I don't know what to do. I'm like, you one step want to go back to what your old friends and what they're doing and what they're up to versus I wasn't sophisticated enough yet to find a new group of friends, especially the older guys to help mentor me, to help guide me. And it took a long time for me to find my spot. And luckily, we went to a new parish where we're at now in St. John the Evangelist. And thanks be to God, they had some things put in place and some other ones as I grew. I went to the seminary to learn lay leadership and all those things. So I learned some things. So I helped cultivate and I created some of my own groups because I'm like, I want to form the group I want to be part of. And part of our
Yeah.
tagline here at Catholic Couple is normalizing Catholicism. We don't have to be weird. We don't have to make it.
Right.
Yeah, the Knights have their formal rigid stuff, but if you want to invite somebody from work or from a buddy from playing pickup games or playing basketball or even from the bar, whatever, we don't have to be weird and like quote scripture and like just be yourself and just like give people the reason for the joy, but you don't have to be a weirdo about it. Like that's because I'm an outsider, so I see it so differently. It's like there's a lot of people I know who are kind of read the Bible or church people, maybe not Catholics, but like no, they're kind of weird. Like I wasn't
Sometimes,
attracted.
yeah.
I wasn't attracted to that. So we can just be authentically ourselves, but 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 trying to show people like, hey, there's, God, the man fully alive is somebody who's, you know, leaving their purpose, who's doing
Yeah.
what God created us to be, and that is being truly authentic, being integrated. But so many people are like, well, I don't know about that because I'm not that holy or I don't understand that. But what I like about COR is that there's a low entry point. Like anybody can come. You don't have to be a knight. You don't have to know theology. Hey, you like barbecue? All right, come here. Let's these other guys are cool. They're just like you. That Joe, Bob, this guy. And it's an opportunity to help people wherever they're at in their faith journey to step
Yeah.
into it and to take it as fast or slow as they want. But I think the thing that will help this is for people to not be overbearing and be weird and try to make it like, hey, this is normal. Hey, we don't have to be like marching on the street and doing weird. Like we can just be like, hey, this is me. I'm authentically me, but I have a relationship with God and he makes me better. And I'm still a sinner and I still fall and I wish I was better. And we're here to try to help pick each other up when we fall. And once in a while, call somebody out that, hey, shouldn't do that or shouldn't say that. And hey, this is what the church teaches. And Jesus, has taught me this and this worked for me and this didn't.
Mhm.
And that generational thing has helped me so much from all the different, people that I've got to know, like, hey, like I got a daughter who's about to be a teenager. Like, so someone who's already had a teenager, like,
Mhm.
all right, now someone just has a newborn. I'm helping them with like, these are some things for 2-year-olds. And, so it's good to have that structure where it's
Mhm.
open for everybody, but to be inviting and not overwhelming and definitely not weird. So I think training people is a key part of that to making it where people want to be part of this thing.
Absolutely. And I think, something that I think guys are also thirsting for is in looking at their formation, looking at, we've developed a Bible study called Men of the Word, and it's diving into just what is the gospel narrative. And so looking at what is Jesus proposing in the gospel? What are we being set free from? What does this mean then to be a disciple? And so say your tagline one more time.
Normalizing Catholicism.
No, I love that. So I think within that, and that's what sparked it, was this idea or this need to we've made the extraordinary ordinary, but how do we make the ordinary extraordinary again?
Yes.
And a relationship with Jesus should be extraordinary, right? Like, does someone look at my life, your life, any of our lives and say, there's something different here. There's something set apart here that's driving this man. And I think so many guys want that to be the case, but again, they don't practically know, how
Yes.
do I do that? Hey guys, can we just have a conversation about how? And that's where I think again, the conversations that get me really excited in core when I go with my counsel and the guys that are some who are and are not in the council are those conversations. One conversation, one of the guys said, we hear this all the time. This is in Latin. We hear offer it up, just offer it up, guys. What does that even mean? How do you do that? What does it mean to offer it up? I'm like, that's a real question. I
Yes.
like that question. And we got to talk about a penitential spirit. We got to dive into the cross. How do we unite our suffering with Jesus? Why is the cross redemptive? Like all these things that are constant. Like, oh yeah, I take that for granted. The people that work, we take that for granted.
Yes.
But it's like, okay, no, let's make this ordinary thing extraordinary again. Lent had become ordinary. Just giving something up had become ordinary. And how are we? Like you said, the glory of God is man fully alive. If we're fully alive, it should be extraordinary. And I think what gets me excited about core, but again, true brotherhood, like you said, the friendships that Aristotle's talking about, that Aquinas is talking about, that are centered in virtue, that have a teleology, that progression. We're aiming here, guys, for holiness to help guys come alive in that, where they truly sense the freedom they have in Christ to live differently, to watch that happen. But like you said, others, many of us, myself included, there are things they're still holding me down, anchoring me over here.
Yes.
Okay, I want to talk about them with my wife at the same time. I want to talk about those with my brothers to say, hey, you'll understand this in a way that my beloved wife won't. Let's just talk about it. And there's a freedom there. And so helping guys build that trust and that camaraderie, and not just like a camaraderie, and yes, being Catholic men together, but Catholic men with a mission, with a purpose, with a direction, um, is really cool. And I think that when we think about the prayer formation fraternity and something that within core, we stress that every time core is held, there should be an element of prayer formation and fraternity, but the ratio can change. So yeah, we might do a barbecue, but hey, let's pray the Chaplet of Divine Mercy at the end, or maybe it's the Rosary still. And we've been telling guys, do the Rosary, just start the Rosary, don't complicate it. But one time, last year, I think it was last year, we're all talking about what we need. It was very evident. Like I had a plan. I came to core, I had a plan of what we were going to do. But in kind of our opening, we did the first and third Saturdays of the month, and we did 8 a.m. coffee and donuts, really good donuts, not just really good donuts. And we were just talking about where was everyone at, what do you need, and it was evident from the just the opening minutes. We need silence. We just need guys. We need this group. We needed silence. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to scrap my plan, brothers. We're going to finish our coffee and donuts and have a little conversation, but we're going to go upstairs into the church. We're just going to sit in front of Jesus in silence. And you can pray a rosary, or maybe we'll pray a rosary together up there. I think we did pray a rosary together up there. We went around and said, what are some intercessory prayers that guys need? What do you want us to pray for? But having the freedom to just say, you know what, we need silence. Let's do it. And that was one of my favorite core sessions ever, was just that one, and having silence.
Just being open to the prompting of the spirit. Something he led you into, like, hey, we obviously need more silence and more stillness for sure. That's part of our culture with the cell phones and the being busy 24/7, and
Yeah.
especially for men, it's definitely harder to try to justify coming together, especially just to be pray. We feel like we have other things we could be doing that are more important, things like that. But we obviously know, I think St. Francis de Sales says, when you're busy, everyone needs a half hour of prayer, except for when you're busy, you need an hour. Because what God does in that time is that he helps focus in on where we should be putting our time and attention. And sometimes it's silence, sometimes it's, but what I found, what you alluded to on the first, and third Saturdays, is sometimes, guys, the only time we can fill into our schedule is what I found was like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. before the family's moving, before there's practice, before there's work
Mm-hmm.
stuff, before there's, other obligations that we already have. And it's hard at the end of the night after we worked. And a lot of guys are working physical jobs or, but like, hey, Saturday morning, it's a twofold help. It helps people on Friday night. Hey, maybe if you're not going to have that third beer, you're going to maybe have a couple beers after work, but you got to get up and the guys are going to count on you being there.
Yep.
So it's going to help hold you accountable on Friday night. And Saturday morning, once you get up and get moving, like I attack the day afterwards because I'm already up, I'm prayed up. I got my brothers together. Like I said, we do a workout sometimes. So then I haven't wasted the day. I didn't sleep into 9. I didn't mope around and, watch TV, doom scroll, or all those other things. So it also helps
Yeah.
get you motivated. And once you're there, it's like, okay, those relationships really start to build. The the grace starts to build on top of that. And then you start to see, the changes that start to take place in your life when you put a priority in God, that things will start to change. Like, this is literally an organization. This is a group that comes together that's trying to grow. And what
Yep.
does God say? If you seek him, you're going to find him. If you knock, the door's going to be open. You're there knocking. You're there looking. If you're there, he's going to help you. He's going to give you those graces. Yeah, you have to respond and eventually have to let down your guns and surrender to feel that fully. But to have that group there supporting you, encouraging you. Hey, you're going to be there Saturday. Hey, you're going to be there. Hey, they're bringing the best donuts, or hey, you start to look forward to these meetings. But at first it can be tough for people
Yep.
because we are living in such a busy time and it's very hard. So what are some suggestions that you'd say people are looking to start this? Would you suggest starting small, like maybe once a month? Is that the frequency? Is it always twice a month? What are some things that you see working?
We've the groups that are honestly doing the best meet the most frequently. And there have been a group of guys actually in almost every state that we've been talking with that have done a continuation off of that man as you, and they're used to getting together, really early on a Saturday morning, and every week, and so like they were able to just keep that going, because they also had the culture. For guys who aren't quite there, we're saying at least twice a month. Definitely no less than once a month. Because if you're really trying to get to know someone and you're trying to engage them, you're trying to build this brotherhood, once a month is really kind of hard to maintain synergy. I mean, you're saying you're going to get together 12 times a year. That's going to be really hard to build something consistent, where I really trust you. I'm really willing to talk and share life with you, and maybe also build friendship outside of this one time that we're getting together. Which I think something you mentioned at the very beginning of our conversation. You're just even texting, hey guys, how's it going? Hey, here's a prayer. Here's something to consider. Hey, here's a prayer request I need. You're going to do that with guys that that you've been getting to know and getting to know frequently. So we encourage at least twice a month. But I mean, hey, if you can get together weekly, do it, do it, and anywhere from 69 to 90 minutes. So you can do the rosary, you can get a good period of formation in there and a good period of prayer. And again, if that ratio needs to shift, do it. What does the group need? And that's something that we've really been stressing with our leadership, is that it's not curriculum driven. So maybe you're like, yeah, we're going to do the Into the Breach video series. Okay, that's 12 sessions. You could do one a month. Awesome, and still you could do the rosary or chaplet and still do some good fraternal time. But what does the brotherhood need? Maybe you get to one week and, like I said, it's silence, or we need a hike, or we need a barbecue, or we need something different than what we've been doing, because we've got 10 new guys have been coming, the last 2 times, and we just need to get to know them. Okay. But we've been encouraging that type of flexibility and awareness and that vision of, again, what's the focal point? It's not accomplishment, right? We're, like you said, we're a busy culture. We're an accomplishment driven culture. So it's not just getting through those things. It's get to know each other, build those relationships, build trust, focus everyone on Jesus. And so that's happened the best with at least twice a month.
That makes sense. I mean, that's what we do in our groups twice a month. I also help lead like a connect group, which is husbands and wives and stuff. And we do twice a month, but twice a month, it's hard. But what the thing is once you open up your calendar and you start to plan things out, the time ends up opening up for you. And then you start to really get in relationship with these people,
Yep.
and you literally look forward to it. Yes, it's like another thing on my schedule sometimes, but it's like once I get there, I'm like, man, I'm so glad I'm here. And when I leave, I'm filled. And if you're not, if that's what's going on in your group, or you're looking for something like that, well, then take the pulse of the group. Like, hey guys, are you guys getting stuff out of this? What can we do to make it better? Hey, maybe it's more prayer. Maybe it's more silence. Maybe it's maybe an offsite. Maybe we need to go for a hike. What we did really helped us. We did a night away. We did like a retreat overnight.
Nice.
We went camping. We went canoeing. We were lucky enough to have our priest came with us, our associate. He
Sweet.
said mass on the banks of the river. I accidentally dumped him in the canoe, and he used me in a homily, which was great. But the camaraderie and the brotherhood that we made through, hiking together, canoeing together, making meals together, like, we weren't like roughing it, but it was enough where we roughed it.
That's life. You
But it
share.
was living it
Yeah.
together, exactly like a St. John Paul II, how he did evangelization. He was going climbing, he was going canoeing, he was going to do things that men want to do, like that. It kind of comes natural. Did you ever read what's the book? I'm drawing a blank now. John, what's his name? John Eldridge, man, or
Sean. Oh yeah. Is it
it's
Jason?
the three.
Yeah, I can see the cover of a guy running. I know
Yeah,
exactly which one you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what he talks about, is that every man wants a battle to fight, a beauty to win, and a venture to take, right? And that's the heart of men. Like, I want to say it's heart something, anyways. But that's the thing that to not be afraid to incorporate that into this. It doesn't have to always just be meetings, but to take that, to get to the heart of men. That's what COR is. It's the heart. What's the heart? Like, we don't have actual like a crusade to fight, like with swords and guns. I mean, some people do, but what's our battle? Our battles against sin, our battles against temptation. Sometimes our battles are, the bills sometimes, but together, when we get together, we can help fight those battles. Sometimes it's an adventure. It's like getting up, go to work, pay the bills, get up, do it all over again. It's like, it can become mundane and boring. And it's like just another thing. It's like, well, how do we take this adventure? How do we get men? That's the other thing about COR. It's courage, it's encouragement. How do we encourage each other to want to be more, to like, we all have that within us, to want to be on an adventure, whether that's hiking or starting to write the book that you wanted to do, or maybe go rock climbing, or whatever it may be, something to get us out of ourselves. And we all have that beauty that we want to win, whether that's our wife. I thought that once I married her, I already won her. But I found out really quickly, you have to keep winning her over and over again every single day. So that's, those, I think, elements can really help us get a better understanding of the heart of every man, is that we're made for relationship, obviously, with God and with each other, but we're made differently than women. We want to fight battles. That's why we love Braveheart, and we love, The Patriot, and those types of movies where guys get to be guys. And I think we shouldn't shy away from that too much. The culture is telling us this toxic masculinity and blah, blah, blah. But now it's like, no, there's true masculinity is somebody like Jesus. He's the lion, but he's also the lamb, trying to help people to cultivate that, our true identity of being a protector, a provider, but also being a nurturer at the same time. But try to incorporate that into this program, flexibility. You can do that. And that's what's going to help get the younger generation, the older guys. No offense, I'm 45, but they're cool a lot of times with having coffee and having conversations and that. But if we want to get to this, the 20s, the younger generation, these young fathers or these young men, college age kids, that may work for a while, but they're going to be yearning for something to grow in that way too. And we should be open and have that flexibility. So I think that would be something awesome, that there's that flexibility that you can add that in, like a retreat or an overnight, or to do these kinds of things incorporated, because we don't have a lot of that anymore. Let's just face it. There isn't Boy Scouts, and people aren't doing that, but there's somebody in your parish who's a fisherman or a hunter or does these things, who can help lead and do those things and try to think outside the box on. Those are the ways that we're going to attract people. Like barbecues are great, but there's something else about, like, hey, we're going to get the guys together. We're going to go hiking, and we're going to go camping, and, we're going to shoot guns, or going to do something that's going to be manly. I think that's going to help try to attract this younger generation too.
I think
Wild at heart. That's it. Wild at heart.
I was gonna say, I think it's wild at heart. Yeah, and I think in that guys are wild at heart, and it's helping them. How do you find God in the monotonies, but also the little deaths? How do you die well in all those little deaths, so that if God calls you to a big one, you've built the virtue to do that.
Yes.
And I think in Father McGivney's day, he was watching families get torn apart, by the culture, guys leaving the faith, to become Masons, to become, to get ingrained in a society that was very anti-Catholic, and so men are being pulled out of the church, being pulled out of their faith, or they're dying in work-related accidents. And if that happened, then and the wife couldn't provide for her children, then the children became wards of the state. Catholic families are being broken up. So he saw this need as a pastor, with a huge heart, looking at his congregation and seeing this reality for the immigrant population, for the Irish Catholics that were in front of him, seeing them, just these families getting ripped apart, and but men needing brotherhood, men needing an understanding of, why am I Catholic? What is my role? What is my duty to my family? What is my duty to my wife? What is my duty to my children? And okay, if I understand that duty, I don't care if I'm sitting, I'm making needles, I'm making spoons, I'm do whatever I need to do, I will do to fulfill that duty. But I will do it well, and I will do it in a way that helps me become a saint. And helping guys recognize that's your primary mission, brothers. I mean, yeah, there have been missionaries who've been called to amazing missions in foreign lands, and um, it, it, maybe you're going to be Francis Xavier, but maybe not. maybe you're just going to be you, right where you are, and you're going to model holiness for your family and for your children, and you're going to serve and honor your wife in a way that, if you have models for your children, what that means and what that looks like, and the ripple effect of that simple holiness. Looking at the example of Zélie and Louis Martin, what did that do for Saint Therese? And her siblings. I mean, that simple holiness. And I think, and this conversation keeps coming up, and with the guys I work with, and ladies, simple holiness. And how do we help guys understand it and grab hold of that, so that, yeah, we're not looking for that crusade, but I recognize the crusade that has to happen in my heart. I recognize the crusade that needs to happen shoulder to shoulder with my brothers in our culture, in a way that brings Christ to the world, and truly evangelizes, to set free so many who are bound by slavery. They are slaves to their sin. How do we combat that enemy, and in a way that is heroic? And I think helping guys, again, with those little deaths, but also how to live well, how to live the joy of the gospel truly, and the freedom to inspire other souls. And I think that's where, for me, for us as knights, the knights with COR, again, recognizing that vision of Father McGivney, and that what he saw then is true today. It just looks a little different, or the causes are a little different, but the realities are the same.
Yeah,
And
in the
that's a
same
joy.
way that the first Christians caught souls, was like Mother Teresa says, is joy is the net that catches souls. So if we're doing it, and people can see that we're happy doing it, that we love the Lord, and like, hey, we're excited about it, we have enthusiasm, we're filled with God, like that's what's contagious. Not like a bunch of, what is Teresa of Avila said, sour faced saints. Like, just
Yeah, I
we
love that
need
one.
people who are filled with joy, who are going to help lead these programs, because when you are who you're meant set to be, you're going to set the world on fire, but you got to be full of joy. If you want other people to have what you have, that's the most attractive. You don't have to even say anything about the gospel. Someone's like, there's something about you that's different. What's different? So we have to authentically live the gospel, that joy, that it's going to help.
Amen.
Well, I do appreciate you taking the time. You've been gracious with your time here. Sean, what are the places that people can find more out about COR, or the Knights, or the website? What's the best way to get in touch with, if they have any questions, or all the
Yeah.
details? So I'll put that in the show notes, on the YouTube video. It'll be on the bottom. But what's the best way?
So the best way to learn more about COR and to find the resources that we have, and things that resources to supplement COR, or how to get it started, is at www.kfc.org, kofc.org/COR. Everything, if you go to kfc.org, you'll find everything about the Knights, but kfc.org/COR, everything about COR. And through there's ways and channels to get to our Catholic Information Services, which has existed in the Knights for the past 75 years. And if you've ever seen a booklet with the Knights of Columbus emblem on it, it comes from CIS, and there is a mountain of Catholic content there. But we're drawing from that as well, and new resources that we're developing with them, through them. We're on the same team. To plug right into COR. So if you're looking at, where do we start? What do we do? How do we get this going? We have printed resources, video training resources, and everything is there to get started. And if you have questions, again, talk to your local Knights. I bet you know who at least one of the Knights is in your parish, and talk to them and ask them about COR. Ask them if they've started it, and if they haven't, and it's on your heart, maybe you're the guy to do it. Maybe you're the one who's like, I'll do it. I'll be the guy to start COR. And talk with the pastor. We want to make it. We've made it clear that COR should only start if the pastor says yes. and it shouldn't compete with any other men's ministries or organizations. If anything, they should enhance and edify each other, strengthen each other, animate each other. So that would be the route I would suggest going. If you need help with that, again, we have that state leadership. That's why I say connect with your council. We also have COR at kfc.org. If you have questions about the nuts and bolts of COR, or where or who you should be connected with, we can help you out and get you sorted. But
All right.
Bobby, thank you so much for this opportunity, brother. It's been a great conversation. I really appreciate your time as well, and this time to chat. Really, really, really grateful.
No, definitely appreciate it. You guys check out COR. I'll share the link down there. Click on it. There's tons of their videos, the whys, the whats, the how to do it, the format. It's very simple. And like you said, it's if you don't know a night, reach out to your pastor and incorporate it with the other programs that you have. You guys can. We're not in competition, like you said. We're all on the same page. This is just a resource to help. But if there's nothing going on, this is a good place to start for sure.
Amen.
Amen.
I mean, thanks so much.
All right. God bless you. You have a beautiful night.
God bless you, brother. Cheers.